This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open it up.
Play.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, coming up here in a few moments, the 2 out of 3 fall matchup. Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. If it goes 3 falls, Paul, it'll be Angle's medals on top of the pole, on top of the ring here.
Well, this is the way to do it. First fall, pinfalls only. Second fall, submission only. And if they split the falls, the only way to really determine who deserves the medals is to hang them up over the ring, and someone has to climb a ladder.
Kurt Angle from Pittsburgh.
And here's the package, sort of building it up. And we've sort of told this story. What'd you think of the way they put together these packages back in the day?
Oh, they were incredible. They did such an awesome job. All the packages were amazing, especially if you were injured and you came back from injury and they would do like a 5-minute package on you. The one that I loved, my favorite was clocks when, when I injured my neck and had the surgery and made my way back. But these promos are incredible. I thought they did such an amazing job at it.
The name we hear a lot credited in this era was Dave Sahadi. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, Dave Sahadi was the man. Him and Kevin Sullivan, they worked very hard and they were very creative.
Just to be clear, too, I know some of our listeners are probably scratching their head. There's more than one Kevin Sullivan in wrestling. There's the guy who does TV in Nashville, and then there's the Shoot Devil in Florida, right?
Yes. There's the guy that does TV in Nashville. That's the one I'm talking about.
This is kind of fun to go back and watch and see this creative, because I'll be honest, I was watching it this time, but I don't remember this whole I'm going to stuff the medals down my trunks. That's good stuff. That's funny.
It is funny. I think that this really helped Chris out and gave him a more versatile character, make him have a much more better personality.
I want to mention that Meltzer gave this show a decent review. The readers all agreed that you guys had the best match that night. It was nearly unanimous. Overall, the readers of the Observer gave the show 54.5% thumbs up, 12.6% thumbs down, and 32.9% thumbs in the middle. I guess this is really no surprise. The whole company, and I'm sure you and Benoit both expect to steal the show anytime you're on pay-per-view and given some time like this, right?
Well, when you have wrestlers like Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit go in the ring and face each other, you're going to have the best match of the night every night of the year. It's, Chris and I were like twins. It was like looking in a mirror and wrestling myself. He was so intense and so technical. I really enjoyed working with him. It was really easy, and he was just
when Howard Finkel is making the announcement here for the stipulations before the match, they don't get much of a pop, even the ladder announcement. I think that's a little weird. Do you think that perhaps fans were burnt out on the concept, or they just didn't really understand the 2 out of 3 falls thing? Are there too many gimmicks in this match, I guess is my question.
I think perhaps there were too many gimmicks,
Yeah.
Having pinfall, submission, and ladder match. I mean, most fans that understand the business know what we're trying to do, but there are a lot of fair weather fans that might not have known or understood.
The entrance set here is something that we see a lot of commentary about online, where fans these days really miss the themed sets, like the old Backlash that had the big hooks that swung and all that. Of course, these days it's just a bunch of LED screens, but you can put whatever you want on those screens. Where do you land on that? Do you miss the specific sets for pay-per-view?
I love the specific sets. I thought they were awesome. It's just they gave it much more different feel. And, each pay-per-view had a different mood to it. It wasn't just a screen that showed different stuff every pay-per-view. It was different setups and different creative designs. It was really cool.
Let's listen in to what you're saying here.
Olympic hero is very excited because tonight my Olympic medals are coming back home. Tonight my Olympic gold medals
Crowd chanting disparaging remarks.
Shut up. Tonight, my Olympic gold medals go from resting against Chris Benoit's genitals to going around my neck once again. And as an added bonus, I'm going to show Chris Benoit just who the best technical wrestler truly is, once and for all. And as far as this ladder match goes, well, Chris Webber has a better shot at coming back to the Kings and winning them a championship. Hold on. Than Chris Benoit does at making this match go to a third fall. It's true. It's damn true.
He's right about that, you know.
So hold on, medals, because Daddy's coming for you.
Oh, man, Daddy.
My goodness.
Daddy's coming for you.
I feel like this is
I said the most stupid shit when I just, the writers came up with all these different quotes and stuff that I would say. It was just hilarious.
it sounded like you were about to launch into a Blue Chew commercial right there. Daddy's coming for you.
Yes.
So here we see Benoit making his way to the ring. I guess the reminder here, you know, the old school way of thinking is we need to make sure the audience knows there's a clear-cut good guy and a clear-cut bad guy. And based on the reception you got at WWF New York, by having you come out and just dump on the hometown team, we remind them that you're the bad guy, right?
Without a doubt, you got to separate the heels from the baby faces, especially when the fans don't know who the heel or the baby face is, or they're confused, or if there's a tweener. So you go out, cut a promo, a heel promo, so when the baby face does come out, he'll get a cheer.
So I'm going to sort of lay out here and let you talk about what we're seeing here, because that's what everybody wants to do is sort of listen in on your thinking about the way you put together the match.
Well, we started with high action because we wanted to get the pinfall out of the way quickly. We wanted to build up for the submission, and we wanted to build up for the ladder match. And we didn't have a lot of time to do it, so we wanted to get the pinfall out of the way as quickly as possible. So this is pretty much it here. I think we're going right into the finish.
And it's interesting. You're doing his German suplex spot. Now you're doing his.
And now he's
real
doing nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he hits me with the angle slam and beats me with a pinfall. And that was up 1-0. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's 1 minute and 7 seconds, and they're playing your music and they raise your hand, and then you're right back at it again. That has to be probably a little confusing to some of the fans, though. Like, wait a minute, it's over?
Yes, I think we might have gone a little bit too early, but we did want to put some time in for the submission trade-offs and also for the ladder match, telling the story of the ladder. So the least popular of the three was the pinfall. We wanted to get that out of the way as quickly as we could.
And you guys have some pretty innovative spots here. I just rewatched this match for the first time since it happened before we clicked record today. And I saw something that I don't think I had ever seen up to that point, and I didn't remember you guys doing. There you are going into the steps. How bad are those step spots? Is it as bad as we imagine?
Yeah, they hurt, especially if you hit the corner. But you know, if you can do it right, if you can throw your back into it, it doesn't hurt as much. But if you throw your shoulder into it, it's going to hurt pretty badly. But you know, the ridges in the corner are what does the damage to the body.
Yeah, I'm sure that could cut a dude up too if it wanted to.
Without a doubt.
So I think this is we're about to set up a spot where you're going to crotch Benoit around the ring post.
This is a real creative spot. Chris Benoit came up with that one.
Oh my gosh. I'd never
That's
seen
how
that.
you get the baby face down. That's a heel move right there.
Oh yeah. Meltzer would say, and also an almost ECW-ish from 5 years ago where fans have seen so much, but it's a spot you can rely on because people buy it. I mean, I think that's it, right? You have to sort of suspend your disbelief sometimes with wrestling, but every guy watching that can imagine, oh, I don't want to take that.
Without a doubt. You're going to cringe when you see that move.
Yeah.
I'm beating the hell out of Chris right now. Trying to soften him up, get him ready for the submission portion of the match.
What's sort of the basic structure of a wrestling match? Forget that this is 2 out of 3 falls, but you know, a lot of wrestling fans have heard terms like, okay, we got to get the heat, we got to have the shine, we got to cut them off, blah, blah, blah. Sort of break down your philosophy on the multiple acts that you need to have in a basic match.
Well, philosophy in a match is when you start, you want to start with wrestling, you know, pro or amateur, whatever you choose. And you want the baby face to out wrestle the heel. And you want the heel to get frustrated to the point where they do something cheap to get the baby face down to start the heat. That's when you work over the baby face during the heat. And you have some false comebacks, false hope spots. That means where you're acting like Chris is going to make the comeback, but you shut him down again. You do a few of those in the match, try to get the fans riled up, and then you put them in a rest hold, and they start coming with the baby face. If the baby face shows some fire, and you come up and you end up doing a double down, that's when you both are selling down on the mat, and that's when the comeback starts. That's when the baby face makes a comeback. They make the comeback, you have your false finishes back and forth, and then you have the finish. If the baby face wins, he's going to win straight up. If the heel wins, he's most likely going to cheat the win.
There you go.
That's the simple psychology of a wrestling match.
Meltzer is pretty critical here. He says Angle's calling spots was pretty audible in spots. Outside of Meltzer's criticism here, did anybody ever say, "Hey, man, you're being too loud"?
Vince McMahon
Really?
he told me, yeah. He said, "Listen, you got to tone it down. The TV's picking up on your calling your spots." And I said, "Vince, I can't help it. I want my opponent to know where he's going at every particular moment. So I call the match not only for my opponent, but for myself too. And I'm pretty loud with it. I've always been that way. I never changed. Even though Vince McMahon talked to me a couple of times, I still did it. I just felt that being safe more than sorry was a better choice."
Sure. I know people were critical of John Cena for the same thing, that they thought he perhaps was a little too loud as well.
Yeah, some guys will act like they're talking shit while they're,
Yeah.
moving their head like they're talking, but they're saying a spot. I
Right.
couldn't do that. I'm not that intelligent. I have to think about what I have to say and say it.
That's funny. When you go back and you watch your stuff from back in the day, do you sort of beat yourself up about it, or can you appreciate it for what it was? I asked because I read an interview with Daniel Bryan years ago, and he says he can't watch his old matches because he feels like he's just evolved as an in-ring performer, and he knows if he had it to do over again, he would do so much of that stuff differently. Is that sort of the same thing for you, or does that not really exist for you?
It doesn't exist for me. I was really proud of the matches I had, and you know, I will be critical on how I look,
I see.
but not on my performance. My performance was always great. I always thought I had solid matches, and I don't think I could have done much different. There are times when I was real stupid, and I did some dumbass shit, like moonsaults off the top of a cage, and diving, off the ramp onto the floor on a wrestler. But other than that, I don't have any regrets in my career.
How much of this stuff that we're seeing would have been called in the ring, and how much are you guys actually calling here before you actually come out through the curtain?
We have probably 5 or 6 various spots during this portion of the match for the submission portion, and everything else was ad lib. So the heat, some of the submission holds that we put in were just called right there. But we have 5 or 6 spots that are throughout the different portion of the show of the match where we're going to do different submission trade-offs. But for the most part, you have to ad lib that part. You can only plan the spots that you want, especially for the submission finish.
Talk to me a little bit about in this era, or when you guys come to the building, let's say there's a 1 o'clock call time, are you trying to make your way down to the ring and just do a bit of a walkthrough, or when you're calling a match or going over spots beforehand, are you still just doing that in the back in this era?
We still go. We went with TV and pay-per-view, not house shows. We wouldn't go in the ring, but TV and pay-per-view, we would go out to the ring and get a feel for what we wanted to do, because it was really important to the boss, Vince McMahon. We had to make sure that our show was tight, our performance was awesome, definitely at TVs and pay-per-view. So we'd have to practice some of the stuff in the ring.
So when you're doing that in this era, is an agent coming down with you, or do they just trust you guys, to just figure it out?
They've always had agents, and for the most part, agents are with the wrestlers, and they help the wrestlers come up with ideas and concepts for the match. So the agent is very crucial in the match. Usually the agent will come up with 2 or 3 different ideas for your match. I mean, for the most part, the 2 wrestlers that are going to wrestle in the match put the match together, but the agent comes up with some clever ideas.
What do you think of referee Jack Doan here? How was he as the third man in the ring?
Jack was good. I enjoyed working with him. He would, he relayed messages properly, got all his false finishes in order. He was really good. He was on top of stuff. This is another submission that was called in the ring. This was not planned. So these are, these are different ones, false finishes for submission that to try to kill some time so that we could get to build up to the submission finish.
Did you ever see Ric Flair put somebody in a figure 4 in a bar in real life?
No, but that would be awesome. Has he done that?
Oh yeah, many times.
I heard he would come to the bar with a robe on and take his robe off and be naked. Like, he just did some crazy ass stuff in his lifetime.
He's had a lot of fun, but once upon a time, some pro ball players were sort of poking holes, saying that, that figure 4 don't beat nobody, and he said, "You put it on," and they said yes. So he really legitimately applied it, and I think they were regretting that decision.
Oh yeah, it can hurt if you do a shoot figure 4. It can hurt. Yes.
Yeah. What about Sacramento? How was this as a crowd? You and I've talked about how Chicago is always such a hot crowd. New York's always a hot crowd. Sacramento, where do they rank?
They're up there. They're in the top 7 or 8. They have a good history of wrestling fans. They've always been very responsive and just a very excited crowd. It's been a lot of fun wrestling there, especially when I got to do my milk truck incident. That was in Sacramento. It was a great moment.
That's cool.
Fans went absolutely crazy.
Historically, as you said earlier, it feels like at this point in the match that we would be in the quote unquote heat portion, but now the babyface is taking control. Did Benoit usually quote unquote call the match? Not necessarily because he was a heel, but because he was the veteran of the two of you?
No, Chris was surprisingly, he's so versatile that he wanted me to call the match. He was game for anything. So I came up with most of the ideas and I would actually call the match. Chris was really, he was able to adapt to any wrestler. So if you came up with incredible ideas that Chris, would have to challenge himself, he would want to do it. So he was really easy to work with. And, most of the ideas and concepts came from me, and I would call the match. And I think that Chris was trying to get me to learn quicker, because at this point in my career, I think I've only been in the business 2 years.
Yeah.
And having that experience of leading a match, which I was ready for, I think Chris wanted me to do that.
In a match like this, where it's not necessarily the stress of we're playing a beat the clock thing or a submission thing, or we're going to do something right at the 30-minute mark or what have you. I assume that Jack Doan, through his earpiece, is getting some sort of time cue. Would he tell you guys at a certain point, like, hey, 5 minutes or something like that? I mean, we were all familiar listening to this, the phrase go home, but when does he give you a heads up that you need to start your finishing sequence? Or is that something you say ahead of time? Like, hey, Jack, we've got 3 minutes worth of stuff. When it's time, just give me a heads up.
Well, we try to plan out, especially a 3 falls match. You have to plan out the time, of each fall, and you need the referee to tell you every single minute. So, the first fall was in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So, when we started the match, we didn't need to know the time. We just knew that we would get to the first fall in 1.5 minutes. But after that, we had the submission was placed at around 10 minutes, and then the ladder portion or the finish was around 22 minutes. So we would have the referee tell us every minute so we could work up to it. And sometimes he wouldn't tell us every minute, but he was pretty good about letting us know where we were in the show. So if our match was 25 minutes, we would know how much time we had left. He would just say, we have 13 minutes left. And we would know that's the time when we need to go to the submission moves.
By the way, if you're not watching along with us, fall number 2 is done. Chris Benoit's tapped out to the ankle lock. So Benoit doing the angle slam to Kurt got pinfall number 1 for Chris. Now Kurt's won with the ankle lock. So we're tied at 1 apiece. It's now a ladder match. And referee Jack Doan went over to the timekeeper, grabbed those gold medals. They lowered the hook from the top of the ceiling and attached it, which I thought was a nice touch because we promoted if it goes to a third fall, it'll be a ladder match. So it didn't make sense for those medals to already be hanging from the ceiling.
You're right. So if it wasn't going to go to a third fall, you don't need to have the medals there, or you don't need to have them hanging. So, the medals were at the announcer table until we set up the ladder to do the ladder portion of the match after the submission finish.
And there you are looking under the ring. And
I picked the wrong ladder. Holy shit. This thing was so short. Look, I got up there. I could barely touch the medals. I picked the wrong ladder. I think someone ribbed me and put that underneath the ring.
So at this point, you don't know.
No, I don't know. I just knew there was a ladder under the ring, and I picked the wrong one.
Oh, this is
they had 2 ladders under there.
Seems to be Allen, but he's climbing up. And Benoit now just sees an angle. He's got to go one more step up. And Angle knocked off the ladder by Chris Benoit.
By the way, I know Jim Ross made it a famous quote. How do you practice falling off a 15-foot ladder or whatever? But when you're taking those big jumps and you're in wrestling boots, you got to be concerned, dude, I hope I don't twist my ankle here, right?
Yeah, things like that can happen. You just have to, not land hard on your feet. You have to stop, land, drop, and roll, so that your body doesn't get much of the impact. It's like landing in sections, your feet, then your knees, then your hip, then your arm, and then your shoulder. You do that properly, you won't get hurt. But if you try to land on your feet and stay standing, you could twist your ankle. So there's the real ladder, the big one.
And the way you can tell, by the way, is the company, for whatever reason, would go out and spray paint the ladders black ahead of time. I guess Vince and Kevin Dunn just thought that looked better than a regular red ladder like you had.
Yeah, it absolutely looks much better. So I think they just wanted to be uniformity with the ring. The ring curtains are black, and the turnbuckles are black, so they wanted a black ladder to match.
I want to mention, as you guys are really starting to get going here, as you set up a big snap suplex, Benoit's pulling double duty. So not only is he working 3 falls with you here. Oh, this is a great top-down shot here. So he takes a big tumble. He's going to come out later and actually win a tag team turmoil match, teaming with Chris Jericho. Boy, they're really trying whatever they can to strap the old rocket ship to Chris Benoit here in 2001, aren't they?
Without a doubt, that was the plan. Chris was the guy back then. Me too. They were really trying to push me really hard as well. But Chris and I were the next upcoming guys. We were the guys that were going to carry the company for the next several years, at least until John Cena got there. And
I'm sure that on some level, even though you've often talked about him being a dream opponent, with your patriotism and the squeaky clean image, but the phenomenal, wrestling pedigree that you had, I'm sure Vince thought this could be my next Bret Hart, right? He could be the guy who's going to be the face of the company like Bret was years before.
Yes, I think that was the whole idea is, he saw Olympic gold medalist. I stayed out of trouble at the time, at that particular time. Unfortunately, I didn't stay out of trouble for good. And that's what got me, why the interest strayed away from me in WWE is when I started getting the injuries and the painkiller problem. I started getting less interest from the big guy, and John Cena started to transpire, and he kind of took over my spot, which I don't blame the company for.
Just so you take one hellacious ladder shot there, what's the worst part about working with a ladder?
It's it's hard to handle. Like, it's just really difficult to hold it and make it look like a good shot. Like, it's really difficult to lay in with a ladder. It's really unorthodox. So you have to be really careful about what you do, and you have to be careful with your fingers too, because you can trap them.
Boy, there's something the rest of the listeners are going to be upset with me if I don't ask. Kurt, do you know where you guys got your ladders?
Where we got our ladders? I don't know. Maybe the Home Depot.
Bruce has made a joke for years. Ladders are us. So,
ladders are us.
Whatever you're looking for, hey Bruce, where did Kurt get you the extra gold medals? Gold medals are us. Like, whatever it is, are us. That's the Bruce Pritchard joke.
That's a generic statement.
Oh, big catapult spot into the ladder. Miscommunication there, you think, or y'all just figuring out what do we do from here?
No, just we were trying to line ourselves the opposite corner of the ladder so we could set up this spot, which I botched right here. I botched this spot. I was supposed to climb up and get to the top of the ladder, and then Chris was going to pull me down. That was supposed to happen, but I was supposed to be higher on the ladder. I just couldn't get my ass up there.
But you know what, though, in a real fight, I mean, that's the way stuff like that would happen, right? It couldn't be perfect and polished every time.
Yeah, but why am I climbing a ladder?
That's true.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, you're not Shelton Benjamin. You're not going to do a flip off of that thing or something.
Right. Chris was very safe on the Germans too. He could have Germaned me on that ladder, and he turned real quickly.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was really safe in the ring.
I was going to say, that's one of the things you've got to be mindful of is usually you're in that 20 by 20 or whatever it is. And if something's flying around, the referee will get out of the way. But this ladder, as Chris Hero used to say, this ladder don't know how to work. So it's just going to lay there. You got to be mindful of the ladder. It's not moving for you.
Without a doubt. You're absolutely right.
At this point, let's see you calling the spot here for the big oof.
This is the portion of the match where you have to utilize the ladder in a creative way to make it part of the match. So you have to use it as a weapon before you utilize it to get the gold medals. So that's what a ladder match, the psychology in a ladder match is. You base the match around the ladder.
Who would have been sort of your go-to from an agent standpoint? If you're working in a ladder match and you want to go pick somebody's brain, who would you hope to talk to?
Oh, a lot of good ones. Johnny Laurinaitis was really innovative with that stuff. I think that I would pick Johnny at all times. He was really good with that stuff.
He really was your favorite agent, wasn't he? Him and Pat?
Yeah, him and Pat. Pat Patterson was incredible. Pat was a little more old school, but he adapted with the business and, made himself new school. But Johnny was just really innovative with incredible ideas. That was a really cool spot.
Yes, it was.
Jack right underneath my chin. Here we go. Chris is pinning me down. This was a cool spot too, because this was something that I don't think has been done before this time. Chris came up with this idea to trap me and to climb the ladder and make it look like he was going to win. But surprisingly, I'm able to do this. That was a cool spot.
Talk to me about that spot where you're on top of the ladder. You're going to take the big bump down and bounce off the top rope. As somebody just watching at home, that feels really dangerous. Is it?
It is dangerous. I mean, depending on how you land, you could over rotate and go over the top rope and land on the floor. You could miss the rope with your arm and catch your chin on it, which could hurt extremely badly. So there are a lot of things that can happen, but this was done perfectly. He draped his arm over the rope and was able to get his arm over so he could do a successful bump.
So remember what's happening here now. Even though Benoit has the crippler crossface on, it doesn't matter because this is not a submission fall. The pinfalls are done. The submissions are done. It's all about the ladder. And here come Edge and Christian. Let's track it.
It's called disqualification.
I know it's no disqualification. These two buffoons, Edge and Christian, Kurt Angle's buddy, getting their
Angle's going up for the medals.
and Christian fighting Benoit on the outside. This is not right, Paul.
Angle wins. Angle wins.
It took 3 people to beat Chris Benoit. Here is your winner, Kurt Angle.
So we heard JR on the call there. It took 3 people to beat Chris Benoit. So I guess the old thing in wrestling is it's not who goes over, it's who gets over. And if it took 3 people to beat Benoit, he's no worse for wear coming up on the short end of the stick here, right?
Oh yeah, this was a huge push for Chris, and it was also a good push for me because I got great heat getting my buddies involved in a match and winning back my gold medals. I won the match, but I got heat for it. Chris was indestructible. He was unbeatable, and that's how you get over. I mean, you know, when they make you look super strong, you're going to become a lot more popular.
This is the end of your feud with Chris Benoit in 2001. The next night, you'll start working with Shane O'Mac, which, yes, boys and girls, that means we're going to talk about King of the Ring sooner rather than later. Before we run down the schedule of what we've got coming up, I feel like we should remind everybody that after a grueling performance like that, you probably need to get in the back and scarf down some protein, right?
Yes, physically fit chicken snacks and Snack Smart crispy protein bites.
Check it out if you haven't already.
11 different flavors. You have the plant protein and the chicken protein. They're incredible. Sweet barbecue, sriracha, honey mustard. We have so many kung po, cinnamon swirl, sour cream and onion. They're incredible. It's an incredible product. You can get them at physicallyfit.com, and you can use Angle Pod as your promo for 20% off.
How about that? The bags are only $9.99, and you can save 20% off when you use our promo code AnglePod over at physicallyfit.com. What you want to do?
What I want to say, Conrad, is a lot of the fans wonder why it's so expensive. It's not expensive. There's 7 servings in the bag.
That's right.
So you continue to use it throughout the day. So for how little that we're charging, it's actually pretty cheap for the amount of servings you get.
That's a great call, because if you're looking at some sort of, maybe you're going to the gas station and you get the little snack pack, that's a one and done type deal. 7 different servings here for $9.99, and that's before you take 20% off. So you're going to be about $8 in. And by the way, that code doesn't just save you 20% on one item; it's off your entire order. So order as much as you'd like, try them all, find your favorite. We just learned last week that the Orton family really likes the cinnamon. I think your favorite is the buffalo wing. Sriracha is still a big hit here at the house. I think every lady and child on earth loves cinnamon swirl most. Would we agree?
Without a doubt, Kim Orton absolutely loves them. Randy has to hide them from her. So my wife, she asks every day for more cinnamon swirl chicken snacks. I can't supply them enough for her. So I have to go to the Physically Fit headquarters and pick them up almost every day.
So check them out. You can do it at physicallyfit.com. You click on where to buy. You can find retailers in your area. I mentioned a few times here on the show before. I've got 3 within driving distance, 1 just 2 miles from my house, but you can save some cash and just go ahead and click order online, and they'll ship to all 48 states right here. Angle Pod will save you 20% off. Oh, by the way, you can also find it on Amazon as well, but the promo code only works at physicallyfit.com. Let's get to the questions though, man. We got a lot of questions about this. Michael McClanahan wants to know, does Kurt believe the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation is too predictable in most circumstances? It seems the series almost certainly goes 3 falls.
Well, there's a reason for it. When you have 2 out of 3 falls, you're advertising the whole match. So if you have a submission and pinfall involved and also a ladder match, you want to make sure all three of those are involved in the match. So if the third fall goes to a ladder and you don't have the ladder, you're false advertising. So you're not being honest with the fans. And you're not getting what they paid for.
Maybe the most common question we got, Christopher Townsend wants to know, what was your favorite match with Chris Benoit? Of course, you had a series of matches here in 2001. I think everybody remembers WrestleMania 17, Backlash, which was the pay-per-view right prior to this, and now Judgment Day. So 3 pay-per-view shows in a row. Did you have a favorite of those 3?
Yeah, my favorite was WrestleMania 17. I mean, anytime you wrestle at WrestleMania, you're going to put on your best performance. I would say Backlash was second, and this match was a close third. But my favorite of all time against Chris Benoit was Royal Rumble 2003. That was a great mixture of wrestling, submission trade-offs, false finishes, and an incredible finish.
Well, we're going to be pumped about next week. We're not done. We're keeping the hits rolling. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2006 draft and how Kurt was drafted to ECW. It's an interesting time in Kurt's professional career here in 2006, and we're going to break down the jump to the extreme next week. Then we'll get June started. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to pay tribute to someone who meant a lot to you, Mr. David Schultz. And if I tried to describe this whole story, no one would believe it. Give everybody sort of a peek behind the curtain about who David was to you.
Dave was my coach. He was my mentor. He was considered, in my mind, the greatest amateur wrestler of all time. He was able to make the Olympic team right out of high school. He was just incredible. And he won a gold medal in the Olympics. He won a world championship. He was the coach at Foxcatcher, and he taught me so much about wrestling that I couldn't thank him enough. He was very crucial in my career.
And we're going to talk about him on his birthday, which will be on June 6th. The following week, June 13th, it's all about Shane McMahon and the street fight from King of the Ring 2001. We'll be back on the 20th with One Night Stand 2006 at the Hammerstein Ballroom. You just heard Randy Orton talk about that a couple of weeks ago. And then we'll finish out the month of June with Vengeance 06, another Randy Orton match here in 2006. Boy, we've had a lot of fun sort of switching things up a little bit. And I guess we can reveal that we're going to continue this interview format. We're going to do more watch-alongs. We're going to do more Ask Kurt Anythings. We're sort of throwing out the rule book, and we're going to have a lot of fun here in the coming months on the Angle Show, are we not?
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.